Hello, continuing on with the reading of Alice A. Bailey's book, Esoteric Psychology. So this is your first video. Basically still in the early stages where Bailey is covering certain questions and their answers, and we're discussing the question of what is the soul. There's several different definitions, and this one is the one where she defines it, or she channels the Tibetan who defines the soul as a unit of energy colored by each of the 7 rays. And so then it's followed by an overview of each of those 7 rays. We covered rays 1 through 5, and this little section is going to be on ray 6, the 6th ray type. And then to take that a step further, I'm basically also sharing how that corresponds with the occult flashcards, also known as tarot cards. So just continuing on right here. The 6th ray. The 6th ray of devotion embodies the principle of recognition. By this, I mean the capacity to see the ideal reality lying behind the form. This implies a one-pointed application of desire and of intelligence in order to produce an expression of that sensed idea. So that's the main gist of it. 6th ray is the expression. Let me pull up this little chart here that we've been using to illustrate this as well, or to accompany this. Down here, the 6th ray. So the 6th ray of devotion and idealism. Again, these are the four rays that break down out of the 3 rays of aspect. These are considered the rays of attribute. So they further color or embody or break down different expressions of deity. All of the 7 rays are an expression of the divine energy of deity. And it starts with those first 3 rays, which are our Trinity. We have the Father, the Son, and the Mother. And so in the 6th ray down here, this chart is really good for giving us what I like to focus on is these negative qualities and the qualities to develop on this ray type. But I'll also go ahead and read this description and master here as well. So the driving impetus to produce form is the 6th ray, the ray of devotion and idealism. Devotion to life, devotion to divinity, and visioning of the plan, and inclusive idealism. Keyword is inclusive idealism. Aspiration, the creative imagination, loving kindness, loyalty, reverence to high ideals, and the revealer of the divine. And of course, our master here is Jesus, the expression of 6th ray. So we're talking heavy on Christianity and things like that, the religion, organized religion in this ray. But it takes it a step further. So going on with the last part from the book here. So this ray, the 6th ray, is responsible for much of the formulation of the ideas which have led man on, and for much of the emphasis on the appearance, which has veiled and hidden those ideals. So the funny thing about this ray is there's like a paradox here, an issue inherent in the ray. So it gives us the ability, or these ray types have the ability to recognize the ideal behind the form. So the form is our appearance. Appearance is the mother, the 3rd ray aspect. It gives us our physical matter embodiment. So we have our bodies and our appearances, what we're colored by, what we express out as physically. 6th ray allows us to have a devotion and a level of recognition of the perfect idealist nature behind that form. So it's an ideal embodiment of that, and it worships it through that Jesus relationship, that Jesus model of seeing that we have a representation of this idealized version of man. We have the ability, we have the desire colored by an expression of the desire, one-pointed application of desire and intelligence in order to produce an expression of that sensed idea. So because we have a sense that you embody this, we are going to devote ourselves to you. But the other side of the coin here is that it says that the emphasis on the appearance, that form, that matter, that being, that person, is what veils and hides those ideals. So instead of focusing more on the qualities, which Jesus and the Son aspect is, it's the ray of quality, it actually focuses more on the appearance, on the person. So we worship the surface instead of the depth. So that's not what it's saying. Right here, we're still talking about both sides, actually. It says that man has created this issue, if you will. It's created most of the ideas which have led man on, but also much of the emphasis being on the appearance has veiled and hidden those ideals, which we're supposed to be gaining from this sixth ray. It is on this ray primarily as it cycles in and out of manifestation that the work of distinguishing between appearance and quality is carried forward. And this work has its field of activity upon the astral plane. The complexity of this subject and the acuteness of the feeling evolved become therefore apparent. So that's just kind of furthering on the explanation of what we were just talking about there, is that this ray primarily has the work of distinguishing between appearance and quality. So it's not so much about the appearance of what the man appears to be. I appear to be a religious man. It's more about the qualities of that religious man or woman, that devoted person. What is that ideal? What are the qualities that are being brought forth from that idealized version or expression of deity? And that's what we're dealing with here on this ray. And if we want to highlight or point out some of the issues that we're experiencing here, the negative qualities that have manifested on this ray, it is that irrationality. Irrationality, selfishness, avarice, jealousy, zealotry, glamours, I'll pause, sycophancy, desire mind, fanaticism, prejudice, cupidity, sectarianism, anger, superstition, impetuosity, and wrong devotion. There's a lot of words packed into that side over there. So there's a lot of negative qualities of this aspect. And I think that comes from the area of what the book is also saying, that because this sixth ray has its field of activity upon the astral plane. The astral plane is the plane of emotions. And that's why just in the last video we talked about the fifth ray, and where scientists are actually less separative and they're actually more they work more collectively, working together and respecting each other and their ideas and things, because they work closer to the soul, which is of the defined personality on the mental plane. The sixth ray is on the astral plane, the plane of emotions. So we get swept up and carried away by our emotions. I stand for this, and so I'm going to be swept into this emotionally and feel this way about all these things and feel this way about people, that it gives rise to some of these negative traits here that we're talking about. And that fanaticism is a huge one. Sycophancy, of this idea of I want to be seen as this divine or devout being, therefore I can get the rewards of portraying that character, when one doesn't beget the other. So the great work of those on this ray is to actually learn to discern and distinguish between appearance, the person says they are a priest, and the quality. What is this person doing in their private life, and whatnot. So this is like, I was just thinking about it earlier, it's just like, just because of the label of, okay, I'm committed to this sixth ray, I'm devoted to this ideal, doesn't mean I'm going to get in the car with it, right? I'm not going to get in the back of the car with the priest. I don't know exactly where his morals are, where his compass is. The doctrine and the religion, Christianity, it talks about heavily. There's even a section devoted to this in the beginning. Go back to that video where it talks about, I can jump to it really quick. It actually talks about the importance of Christianity and all that it has given to us. Christianity is primarily a religion of cleavage. It's a middle point, demonstrating to man his duality. It reveals to us our dual nature and what we need to pick aside. It creates that distinction, and so laying the foundation for future unity. But the goal is always still unity. It's not just to divide, it is to unite back. And that's where that astral emotional energy that's on this ray that creates this separate nature, dividing religions, dividing sex, and then that's not sex, S-E-X, S-E-C-T-S, is part of the old consciousness or the lower consciousness vibration. It's not the highest expression. But the purpose and intent of Christianity has been definite and high, and it has done its divine work. Today it is in the process of being superseded, but by what new formulation of truth is not yet revealed. The light is slowly pouring into man's life, and in this lighted radiance, he will formulate the new religion and arrive at a fresh enunciation of ancient truth. And it is ancient truth that we're looking at here. That's why I go back to the tarot, because these flashcards were created far, far in the past, long ago. Far, far in the past, long ago. Whatever. And so we see this wisdom and these teachings in that stuff. So there's good stuff here, there's fruit, but then when we wash it down with all of these things that actually cause separation and division and non-truth, mistruth, judgment, prejudice, sectarianism. So now we're going to war over who's right, whose beliefs supersede the other, wrong devotion, superstition, irrationality. Is it rational for me to say that my way of love is better than your way of love? And what is love really? And just this judging, this, it's not Jesus. It's not that energy, right? It's not the same vibe. So I'm going to jump over, and then the qualities to develop here are self-sacrifice. These are the devout, traits of the devotee that we hear about commonly. Self-sacrifice, emotional control. So that's when you get to the part where it says in the book that it doesn't mean the religious man in terms of the initiate who's studying this and has that mental apprehension. So we work on both planes, the mental plane and the astral plane, and we know how to put our emotions in check so that we don't get swept up into kind of these distracting ideals and fanaticism. Selflessness, tolerance, serenity, equanimity, truth, loving kindness. But on this, in the book, there was another part where I kind of did not share it. I'll just go over it now, where there's the, it goes over the lower and higher expressions of each ray, which is important in understanding right here. Sorry, the screen, the lighting is pretty bad. I touched something and I don't know what I did, and I hit reset, and then it just got really crazy, and I just got frustrated. So I didn't change it. So hopefully it's not too, I know it is, it's bright, but hopefully you can still see it. So on the first ray here, we have the higher expression is, we'll start with the lower expression. The lower expression of the first ray type is modern diplomacy and politics. So the way we have our political system, diplomacy, but the higher expression of that is the science of statesmanship and of government. So this is where we say, when we talk about those futuristic societies, the Jacques Fresco and so his Venus Project and things like that, these utopian societal models where everybody says, oh, how can that work out? It's just like you're going to just have a place where there's no government, there's no police, there's no rule and order, and who's going to make the rules, and how are we going to survive? Because perfect is not going to have order. And it says, no, we do understand the science of statesmanship, of government, of having a way of decorum, of understanding. If someone just doesn't get to accuse someone and then it's off with their heads, as if in the olden days, we have reached a state of evolution where we understand the value of that. So it's like you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You're going to include that higher expression of the first ray, which is that ray of power and expression in the destroyer. But we're going to keep that statesmanship because we understand that it works. But the lower expression of that we're seeing right now is just politics. Ray 2, which is the ray of deity itself. So this is the ray that Jesus was on. It's the lower expression of that is ironically religion, and we'll jump to that in a second. The highest expression is the process of initiation as taught by the hierarchy of adepts. Ray 3, the lower expression is the use and spread of money and gold. Ray 3, this is the mother aspect. So this is the aspect of matter where we're manifesting money or whatever. That's what it's saying. So the spread where we turned it into the goal or the purpose of living and existence and having this physical life is to get money, right? And so we just use and spread money, and that's just all that matters. That's a low expression. The higher expression of the ability to manifest and birth something into this reality is to have a means of communication or interaction. The higher expression of this divine ray is like the radio and the telephone and the telegraph and the power to travel. Those are higher expressions of why we're here, is so that we can manifest and birth into realities these things that were unfathomable in the beginning. They make things easier, just like when we first created the coin or banks so that we didn't have to lug around our bags of coin back in the day. That was an improvement. That was using our mind, our mental capacity, intelligent activity, third ray, to manifest something that is divine, to show our power to create something that is beautiful, that is harmonious, that is going to help us. But just creating something that makes us more greedy is not it. Moving a step higher in that expression would be like we did with the radio, telephone, and all of the things moving, flying across the sky in a plane. That's a beautiful expression of our divine power, our divine nature. Ray 4, lower expression, is actually architectural construction and modern city planning, where we just have zones and you're trying to pack as much people into much place and much metropolitan to control and all these things. And it's not the higher expression, which is like the Masonic work based on formation of the hierarchy and related to the second ray. So we're really beautifying things and making those exact structures like we talked about when we discussed that ray type, some of the beautiful architecture that we had seen demonstrated. Ray 5, lower expression, is modern educational systems and mental science. And the higher expression would be the science of the soul, which is what we're studying right now, esoteric psychology. Ray 6, which is what we're on right now, the lower expression is the churches and organized religions. And the higher expression is actually Christianity and the diversified religions. And we notice here that it's related to number 2. So although this is the higher expression, Christianity and diversified religions are the higher expression of Ray 6, it is actually the lower expression of Ray 2. Because what we're looking at, again, is the ability to distinguish between appearance and quality. We're not trying to appear as devotees. That makes us the most divine. We're going to rise higher because this is a ray of attribute. We're rising higher into the ray of aspect, which is first, second, and third ray. And where we can be higher than that is we can understand that behind the appearance of the Christ is his principles, his quality. That's what made him so valuable, that he was displaying the monad, an embodiment of multiple rays, as many as possible. A monad embodying as much of the zodiac, as much of the birth chart as possible. That's why he's recognized as the fish. The 12th house of the zodiac is Pisces, and Pisces is a fish. So, but Jesus, I think, was Capricorn because the December birth and all that. But everybody goes back and forth about that. But the fish is used because it's supposed to show the embodiment of so many of these traits that creates this higher consciousness, this higher conscious being, the monad. And then the last one here, Ray 7, the lower expression is spiritualism of phenomena. And that's that woo, magic, trickery, like seance kind of woo type of stuff. And then the higher expression is all forms of white magic. So let's see if I can jump back to our chart here and wrap this up with, actually, I think we're done here. We covered the higher and lower aspects. Let's see if we can just move over to our tarot cards. So sixth ray, like we talked about. So we're looking at the ray of devotion, idealism, the automatic one that comes to mind, obviously, if you study these flashcards, not for divination, but for studying the self. And I think in the last video or one of the other ones, I said that there's 56 cards in a tarot deck. I excluded the whole 22 cards of the major arcana because I've been studying the major and the minor arcana separately, but there's 78 cards total in a traditional tarot deck. I'm not sure that matters, but if you're purchasing one, you want a 78 card deck that includes the major and the minor arcana. But the Hierophant would be the obvious expression and embodiment of the sixth ray in tarot. These are two examples of two different cards from two different decks that I've been using in most of these videos. On this side we have the Hierophant from the Cosmic Tarot. This is more, it's not even really the traditional depiction. This one is more so like that. But we have this leader, and he's got the eye, he's got the eyesight, foresight, he's locked on, he's leading the way, he's showing what to look at, and there's always some people behind that are following. Those are who you could see are the devotees. And then here you have, again, that This is from the Field Tarot. So I'm showing different examples of decks so you can see that the depictions and the images can be shown in different ways that aren't as offensive or scary as most of the people who are not familiar with tarot as it comes to just learning about what they were originally for, which is for studying the self through the allegorical symbols on the cards, not for divination. So if you were kind of scared of that, then you can lean more less towards the Rider Waite, the original depiction of the images, and some of the more symbol rich to some of the more basic, clean, or softer versions of the cards, if that's helpful for you. And then I'll read from the field book from these cards to show kind of why they represent this 6-ray type. The Hierophant card, I'll just hold this one up for that. The Hierophant is a teacher or mentor who stands for values and beliefs. He brings guidance for those seeking counsel from a trusted, structured source. Now is the time for learning, listening, and paying attention to core principles. And we're looking at the quality aspect, right? Not just the man, the mentor. We're looking at the core principles that he embodies and represents. Are they guiding us to love our neighbors, to love one another, to be accepting and compassionate to others? Or are we using that divinity to be more of a sycophant? Do we want the rewards of being seen as a religious person? Do we want the benefits of others listening to us? Do we want the glory of having others assume that our house is in order, where we know that things may be not that real way, and we just kind of want the rewards of it without actually embodying it? 6-ray can teach us much about the ability to devote ourselves to an ideal, but we need to distinguish again unemotionally, sift through the waters of the astral realm to be able to discern whether they're really just making us fall for the illusion of their appearance and not holding them accountable for the quality of those aspects being expressed in all ways, as Jesus the Messiah was trying to teach us. The keywords of the Hierophant are spiritual wisdom, education, belief systems, religion, and mentorship. And so that's why that's an obvious yes for the tarot of the flashcards of the occult to show this ray type. The a little bit less apparent one, I think, was the Empress. This is one that shot out to me as a representation of the 6th ray. So the Empress, there's those two examples of the cards from the two tarot decks that we were using. Again, this one is always a softer or a different, less traditional view on the Field Tarot. And then we have the Cosmic Tarot, which again is not the traditional images. But right here, just like with the Emperor card I showed, I think in one of the last 2 or 3 videos on this Alice A. Bailey book study, the Emperor was depicted by a wolf. And this one, I don't know if it's a cougar or some kind of feline, which is it's a feminine. So the feminine energy, the Empress embodies the feminine energy. I'll read that really quick from the book. And I'll hold up the Field card for this one. The Empress. The Empress is the Earth Mother archetype. She is a goddess of feminine energy and nature. Now is the time for creation, whether it be of life, relationships, art, or business. Support the growth of new ideas through fierce love and compassion. So then you have like the fierceness, the ferocity of a mother, a feline energy. So this is the goddess archetype, right? Just as Carl Jung shows the archetypes and teaches us that in psychology, the Empress is a representation of that feminine energy, the feminine archetype. So a man or a woman, it's not about gender, it's about that expression of that energy, the embodiment of that archetype. So this is the energy that's ripe to produce, to bear fruit, to bring that mother energy and manifest into physical form. And the 6th ray on this chart here, it did show that it's about the driving impetus to produce form. And the form that we're trying to produce is one that represents that we are devoted to life, that we are devoted to our divinity, that we are devoted to our vision of the ideal plan on earth, just as Jesus was. And so the Empress is a really good depiction of that, kind of an unexpected one, because this one shows it a little better, because I think in the other decks they show her as pregnant just to represent that life-giving attribute, like it says in this book, whether it be of life, the feminine energy bursts life, but she also, this is an allegory, it's a symbol for an energy that we all can embody, and we all should embody. It's of relationships, art, business, new ideas, the growth of new ideas. And she's another closed-lipped depiction in the deck. So we don't have any depictions of people in their tarot as like, blah, 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 you know, like, oh my God, this is the, or do you hear the news, you hear the gossip, whatever. We're tight-lipped. They're all, she's a show rather than tell, right? It's not about what people talk about or what people say. It's about delivering the fruits. So she's adorned in all of this, not because she's being flashy. She's got the universe, the cap of the stars on her head. It's like her crown. You know, she's got all these jewels. She's got the animal bringing to her another jewel, a ruby here. You've got the world down here tucked into the corner. There's a lot of symbolism in the cards, but it's all about the energy of embodying this feminine attribute that merges. So it's the receptive nature of the father energy that puts out the desire. She's the receiver of it, and then she uses the intelligence of the techniques acquired over time, over living, in order to show how we can put that together to birth our second attribute, which is the Son. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the Mother, the Father, and the Son aspect, first, second, third ray. And then again, we see that in other religions, the Trinity. But again, 6 ray types, if you're on this ray, your work is to develop more of that loving kindness versus the fanaticism or wrong devotion. I think that's it. I'm going to wrap this up here with, again, our great invocation. I love doing it like that. Such a dork. All right. Thank you for watching. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ consciousness return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. All right, thank you for watching again. And I hope that you are doing well or endeavoring to become so. And that's it. I will see you in the next video. Take good care.